Hello friends. Imagine two people walking into a crowded room, drawn to each other as if some invisible thread has already been tied between them. On one side, a Scorpio man, intense eyes, a presence that feels magnetic, even slightly intimidating, like he knows more than he says. On the other, a Gemini woman, bright smile, quick words, a spark in her laughter that makes the room feel lighter. Their connection is not ordinary. It's both thrilling and complicated, a story of passion, challenges, and growth. But what exactly happens when Scorpio's depth meets Gemini's airiness? Let's explore this fascinating pairing step by step. Chemistry. Initial attraction. The very first spark between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman is almost impossible to ignore, because it feels less like two people meeting and more like two different elements colliding. Imagine fire and air colliding in the middle of a crowded cafe, or across a noisy party, or even just passing one another on the street. There is that sudden charge, like static in the air before a storm, and both of them feel it, even if they won't admit it at first. For the Scorpio man, attraction is never something he takes lightly. He does not fall easily. He watches. He studies. He is not the type to be swept away by a pretty smile or a casual laugh. He prefers depth, substance, mystery. And yet, when the Gemini woman walks into his space, something about her unsettles his carefully constructed control. Maybe it's the way her energy seems to bounce from one topic to another, the way her laughter rings out like music, or the way her eyes sparkle with mischief as if she's in on a joke nobody else can hear. She is not just attractive, she is alive, in motion, impossible to pin down. That, for a Scorpio man, is fascinating. He is used to seeing people wear their masks and play predictable games. But the Gemini woman? She's unpredictable, a wild card, a spark of lightning in human form. And from her side, the Gemini woman feels an entirely different pull. She is the social butterfly, the thinker, the quick-witted conversationalist who can charm almost anyone. But Scorpio is not almost anyone. His silence intrigues her. His piercing gaze unsettles her in a way that few people ever manage to do. He is not immediately accessible, and for a Gemini woman, that is magnetic. She thrives on curiosity, puzzles, the thrill of discovering something hidden. A Scorpio man, with his aura of secrecy and intensity, becomes the greatest mystery she's ever encountered. She senses his layers immediately, the calm surface hiding a storm underneath, the guarded words hiding 1,000 unspoken thoughts. And for someone who lives for variety, the idea of peeling back those layers is irresistible. Their first conversations often reflect this dual energy. The Gemini woman talks with her natural speed, bouncing from topic to topic, current events, dreams, jokes, wild theories. The Scorpio man listens, his gaze fixed, his mind processing, absorbing her words like data points in a grander puzzle. He may not match her tempo at first, but his silence, his careful responses, create a rhythm that she finds oddly grounding. She feels like she's sparking the fire, and he's fanning it with quiet intensity. Together, they create a dialogue that's half dance, half duel, her curiosity pulling at his mystery, his intensity anchoring her flight. But what makes their chemistry especially potent is the contrast. He is deep waters, she is quicksilver air. He thrives in stillness, she thrives in motion. And yet, when they collide, it feels like the perfect storm. He's drawn to her ability to make the world feel lighter, less suffocating, while she's drawn to the gravitational pull of his emotional depth. It's as if she teaches him how to breathe again, and he teaches her how to truly feel. Still, this initial attraction comes with its own kind of danger. The Scorpio man can become almost obsessed with the Gemini woman once she has caught his attention. His nature is not casual. He doesn't simply date someone. He studies them, consumes them, desires to know them in their entirety. This intensity can feel overwhelming to the Gemini woman, who craves freedom, space, and variety. At first, she enjoys being the center of his attention. It flatters her. But soon, she may begin to notice how deeply he watches her, how intently he wants to understand every corner of her mind, how much he craves exclusivity. For her, who is used to fluttering between people and experiences, This might feel like being held too tightly. Conversely, her lightness and adaptability can stir insecurity in him. Scorpio men are fiercely loyal and crave commitment. They are not interested in surface-level flings. Seeing her easily chat with strangers, laugh with friends, or switch from one interest to another might ignite his jealousy or suspicion. It's not that he doesn't admire her social grace, he does, but it can also make him feel like he's just one of many, not her singular focus. For someone like Scorpio, who wants to be the one, that can be both thrilling and terrifying. Yet, what keeps them bound together despite these differences is the thrill of the chase. For the Gemini woman, Scorpio is not someone she can figure out in a day, a week, or even a year. Every time she thinks she has him solved, he reveals another layer, another hidden truth, another side of himself that fascinates her all over again. For the Scorpio man, Gemini is never boring. Just when he thinks he's pinned her down, she shifts, evolves, reinvents herself. She is an endless puzzle, and he loves puzzles. The energy between them is like magnets pulling and pushing at the same time. There are moments of effortless attraction, where they feel inseparably drawn together, her laughter filling his darkness with light, his gaze anchoring her restless spirit with weight. And then, there are moments of friction, when she feels smothered by his intensity, or he feels unsettled by her flightiness. But even in those moments of tension, the chemistry doesn't disappear, it transforms. Conflict between them is not a lack of attraction, it's another form of it. The truth is, their initial attraction is not smooth. It's not like slipping into something easy and familiar. It's a spark, a collision, an explosion. It's exhilarating, sometimes confusing, but always unforgettable. When a Scorpio man and Gemini woman meet, they don't just notice each other, they remember each other. Even if they part ways, even if life takes them in different directions, the memory of that first spark lingers like a flame that refuses to die out. In the end, the chemistry and initial attraction between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman is a story of opposites colliding, his intensity with her playfulness, his silence with her chatter, his depth with her curiosity. It's not smooth or simple, but it's powerful, and power is exactly what keeps them coming back for more. Emotional dynamics. This is the arena where the relationship between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman reveals its most fascinating contradictions, where their inner worlds either collide in chaos or intertwine in ways that feel life-changing. To understand this connection, one must first understand how radically different their emotional landscapes are. For a Scorpio man, emotions are not just fleeting moods or passing states of being, they are oceans. He doesn't merely touch the surface of feelings, he sinks into them, consumes them, lets them define his choices, his behaviors, even his destiny. Love, for him, is not a pastime, not something to fill empty hours. It is an all-encompassing force. When he loves, he does so with a level of intensity that borders on obsession. Loyalty is not just expected, it is demanded. Trust is not merely hoped for, it is non-negotiable. His emotional world is filled with depths so profound that most people are intimidated to even dip a toe into it. The Gemini woman, by contrast, approaches life from a place of thought before feeling. For her, emotions are real but filtered through intellect. She examines them, plays with them, sometimes even talks herself out of them. To her, feelings are not the anchor that defines her existence, they are experiences to notice, learn from, and often move past. This does not mean she lacks depth. On the contrary, she is a thinker who reflects on everything. But she does not live at the bottom of the emotional ocean like Scorpio. Instead, she flits through the air above it, exploring, questioning, engaging with life in motion. She is changeable not because she is shallow, but because her spirit is restless and her mind is endlessly curious. When these two worlds meet, sparks fly. Sometimes those sparks ignite passion and transformation. Other times, they burn too hot, leaving both feeling misunderstood. The Scorpio man, with his relentless need for emotional certainty, may look at the Gemini woman's adaptability and interpret it as inconsistency. He may think she isn't serious enough, that her tendency to laugh in moments he deems solemn means she lacks respect for the gravity of love. For him, everything is serious when it comes to matters of the heart. He does not dabble, and so, her lightheartedness can feel like a direct challenge to his sense of loyalty and devotion. From her perspective, however, his emotional intensity can feel like a tidal wave. Gemini women are playful, social, constantly moving from one interest to another. They thrive on flexibility, variety, and a sense of freedom. When Scorpio insists on emotional depth and unwavering seriousness, she may feel cornered, trapped, as though the joy she naturally brings to life is being suffocated under the weight of his expectations. To her, his passion can look like possessiveness, and his loyalty can look like a cage. And yet, beneath this tension lies the potential for extraordinary growth. If the Gemini woman has the patience to sit with Scorpio's intensity instead of trying to escape it, she may discover something life-changing: the value of emotional honesty, vulnerability, and devotion. He can teach her that not every fleeting feeling should be dismissed, that some emotions deserve to be sat with, experienced fully, allowed to reshape her perspective. With him, she learns what it means to be seen completely, not just for her charm or her wit, but for her heart. On the other side, if the Scorpio man allows himself to embrace her lightness rather than fearing it, he can discover the relief of laughter, the liberation of not carrying the world on his shoulders all the time. She can show him that intensity, while beautiful, does not need to consume every moment. With her, he learns that joy is just as sacred as passion, that love can be playful as well as serious. Her ability to make him laugh in the middle of his storms, to distract him from his darker thoughts, becomes not only refreshing but healing. The challenge lies in balance. When Scorpio is too heavy, Gemini will flutter away. When Gemini is too light, Scorpio will feel unseen. They must learn to meet in the middle, to recognize that his oceans and her skies are not enemies, but two halves of a whole. Together, they can create a relationship that flows between seriousness and play, intensity and levity, depth and lightness. One of the most fascinating aspects of their emotional dynamic is how they trigger each other's fears. Scorpio fears betrayal, dishonesty, and abandonment. Gemini fears boredom, stagnation, and suffocation. When Scorpio's intensity rises, Gemini feels her freedom threatened. When Gemini's lightheartedness rises, Scorpio feels his loyalty disrespected. It is a constant tug of war between needing more and needing less. But if they can learn to voice these fears rather than act them out through jealousy, withdrawal, or detachment, they can transform their relationship into something deeply resilient. There is also a profound opportunity here for mutual transformation. The Gemini woman, by being who she naturally is, has the ability to draw Scorpio out of his shadows. She is the sunlight to his storm clouds. Her laughter can break through his brooding silences. Her curiosity can coax him to share the secrets he guards so closely. She has a gift for pulling people out of themselves, and with him, that gift can feel like salvation. Meanwhile, the Scorpio man, by loving her with his full heart, can anchor her in ways she didn't even know she needed. He becomes the safe harbor when her restless wings grow tired. He becomes the depth she sometimes secretly longs for but rarely finds. With him, she can rest, knowing that beneath her constant movement lies someone who will not let her drift away unnoticed. He becomes her grounding force, and she becomes his light. When they manage to sync, when they both surrender a little bit of their natural tendencies for the sake of harmony, the result is nothing short of extraordinary. Their connection becomes a dance, sometimes fiery, sometimes tender, always transformative. She teaches him to laugh, to let go, to embrace change. He teaches her to slow down, to feel, to commit. Together, they create a love that is not always easy, but always meaningful. In the end, their emotional dynamics are not about one being right and the other wrong. They are about contrast and complement, about two very different approaches to life learning to coexist. The Scorpio man will never stop being intense, and the Gemini woman will never stop being playful. But in the push and pull between ocean and air, between storm and breeze, they can create a world that is uniquely theirs, one where laughter softens the weight of passion, and passion gives purpose to the lightness of laughter. Long-term compatibility. Here lies the timeless question that haunts every seemingly mismatched couple. can love between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman truly endure the test of years, of seasons, of changing tides? At first glance, their pairing might appear to be more of a fleeting adventure than a lifelong commitment. They come from opposite corners of the zodiac wheel, carrying with them opposing needs, contrasting temperaments, and wildly different visions of what stability looks like. One craves permanence, the other craves variety. One is anchored by emotional security, the other takes flight in pursuit of freedom. If compatibility could be measured on paper alone, the answer might seem clear: these two are destined to clash. And yet, reality has a way of writing stories that defy astrological mathematics. Because sometimes, the very differences that should break a relationship apart are the same ones that weave it together into something unforgettable. The Scorpio man, when he thinks of long-term love, does not imagine a casual affair. His vision is rooted in loyalty, intensity, and shared destiny. He wants a bond that is not merely surface level but soul deep, one that transforms both partners over time. His idea of commitment is sacred, unchangeable, unwavering, something that once established, should never be betrayed. The Gemini woman, on the other hand, approaches the idea of the long haul with far more flexibility. For her, life is a story in constant evolution, and relationships are meant to evolve with it. She values independence, variety, and the freedom to grow in new directions. While she may want love that lasts, she wants it to feel alive, ever-changing, never stagnant. To her, permanence without growth is a prison. So how do these conflicting visions find common ground? The answer lies in mutual respect and the willingness to embrace compromise. For the Scorpio man, the challenge will be learning to trust her independence, not as a threat to his devotion but as an essential part of who she is. He must come to understand that giving her room to breathe, to explore, and to socialize does not mean she loves him any less. In fact, for a Gemini woman, the more space she is given, the more deeply she values the bond she returns to. She must not feel caged, because the moment she senses confinement, her spirit begins to rebel. The Gemini woman, on her side, must recognize that Scorpio's need for loyalty is not negotiable. For him, trust is the cornerstone of love. It is not something to play with, nor is it something that can be easily restored once broken. She must learn that for him, fidelity is not just about physical exclusivity but emotional consistency as well. He wants to feel that no matter how wide her world is, no matter how many people she engages with, he remains the central figure in her heart. If she can reassure him of this, through honesty, transparency, and affection, she can ease his fears and build a foundation of trust strong enough to last. Of course, the path toward long-term harmony is rarely smooth for this pair. Their relationship often resembles a roller coaster ride, exhilarating highs followed by stomach-dropping lows. There will be times when their differences feel insurmountable, when his intensity overwhelms her, when her lightness frustrates him, when jealousy flares or freedom is misunderstood. But within those challenges lies the opportunity for transformation. If they choose to face their differences not as flaws but as lessons, they can grow into a partnership that is both unusual and deeply resilient. Over the years, Gemini's adaptability can become a gift to Scorpio's rigidity. She shows him that change is not always betrayal, that growth does not mean abandoning love. With her by his side, he learns to loosen his grip, to embrace the shifting seasons of life, to find joy in unpredictability. She softens the edges of his intensity, reminding him that laughter, playfulness, and curiosity are just as important in a lifelong partnership as devotion and passion. In her presence, he may learn that permanence is not about everything staying the same but about choosing each other again and again, even as life evolves. At the same time, Scorpio's devotion becomes an anchor for Gemini's restless spirit. She may fly, explore, reinvent herself, but she always knows she has a home in him. He gives her the security of knowing that no matter how many changes she undergoes, there is someone who sees her, understands her, and remains unshakably by her side. For a Gemini woman, who often feels scattered or pulled in many directions, this grounding force can be both comforting and empowering. He helps her see that freedom does not mean drifting without roots, and that love can be the stabilizing force that allows her to spread her wings even wider. In the long run, their relationship becomes less about eliminating their differences and more about learning to live with them in harmony. Scorpio will never stop craving depth, and Gemini will never stop craving variety. But if they build a relationship where his need for intensity is respected and her need for freedom is honored, they can create a union that is both passionate and enduring. They thrive not because they are the same, but because they offer each other what the other lacks. Yes, there will be storms. Scorpio's jealousy may rise, Gemini's flightiness may surface, misunderstandings may occur. But storms, when weathered together, have the power to strengthen bonds rather than break them. Every time they navigate through conflict and emerge still holding hands, they reinforce the strength of their love. And over time, what may have seemed like a volatile pairing transforms into a love story defined by resilience, adaptability, and transformation. So can this relationship last? Absolutely, if both partners are willing to grow, to compromise, to honor each other's truths. It will not be the easy path, but it will be one of the most rewarding. Their love will be remembered not for its smoothness but for its depth, its evolution, its ability to turn two contrasting souls into a team. Together, the Scorpio man and Gemini woman can write a story that defies logic, a story where freedom and loyalty coexist, where passion and play intertwine, and where permanence is not about staying the same but about evolving side by side through the shifting seasons of life. Communication. Conflict resolution. Communication is the lifeline of any relationship, the invisible thread that holds two people together even when everything else seems to be unraveling. For a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman, this thread is both dazzlingly strong and dangerously fragile. It can pull them closer in moments of profound connection, but it can just as easily snap under the pressure of their opposing styles. Their words, or lack thereof, often define the rhythm of their love story, sometimes harmonious like a melody, other times jarring like two instruments playing in different keys. A Gemini woman is, by her very nature, a communicator. Ruled by Mercury, the planet of thought and speech, she thrives in the realm of words. Conversation for her is not just a way to exchange information, it is how she connects, how she learns, how she makes sense of the world. She can talk about anything, anywhere, at any time. From silly banter to deep philosophical debates, she is at her best when her mind and tongue are engaged. To her, silence feels like stagnation, like the energy in the room has gone flat. Words are her oxygen, and without them, she feels suffocated. The Scorpio man, however, walks a very different path. He is selective with his words, often preferring silence to idle chatter. When he speaks, it is with intention. He values depth over breadth, truth over trivia. Small talk bores him, gossip repels him, and mindless chatter drains him. He listens more than he talks, and when he does open his mouth, it is usually to make a statement that carries weight. His words are arrows, carefully aimed, rarely wasted, and often piercing straight to the heart of the matter. This contrast between them is as fascinating as it is problematic. At first, the Gemini woman may find his quiet presence mysterious and intriguing. His silences feel like puzzles to be solved, and she delights in filling the space with her stories, jokes, and questions. He, in turn, may find her chatter refreshing, even charming, a reminder that not every word needs to carry the weight of the universe. But as time goes on, the very differences that first attracted them can become the source of frustration. She may start to see his silences not as mystery but as walls. She might wonder why he doesn't share more, why he doesn't respond quickly, why he seems to retreat into himself instead of opening up. For a Gemini, who thrives on exchange and dialogue, his withholding can feel like rejection. Doesn't he trust her enough to let her in? Doesn't he care enough to tell her what's on his mind? From his perspective, her constant stream of words can feel overwhelming, even trivial. He may think she talks too much without really saying anything, that she's skimming the surface of ideas instead of diving deep into the ones that matter. For a man who lives for emotional and intellectual depth, her lightness of speech can sometimes feel shallow, as though she's afraid to sit still long enough to confront the deeper truths he treasures. The differences become even sharper when conflict arises. The Scorpio man, when hurt or angry, retreats. His instinct is to withdraw into silence, to process everything internally, to let his emotions build until he is ready to strike with precision. His style of conflict is surgical: wait, watch, then deliver a few devastating words that cut to the core. He doesn't lash out impulsively, he waits until he knows exactly where to hit. This makes him formidable but also dangerous in arguments, because his silence builds tension and his eventual words are rarely forgotten. The Gemini woman, however, cannot stand unresolved conflict. She needs to talk it out, immediately, fully, sometimes messily. She believes that problems grow worse when left unspoken, so she prefers to address issues in the moment. Even if her thoughts are scattered, even if her words tumble out in a rush, she feels relief in verbalizing her frustrations. Her style of conflict is rapid fire. She talks, analyzes, circles around, sometimes contradicts herself, but always seeks resolution through dialogue. This mismatch can lead to immense frustration. She chases him for answers, pushing him to talk before he is ready, while he retreats further into silence, feeling smothered by her insistence. She interprets his withdrawal as indifference, he interprets her persistence as nagging. The more she pushes, the more he retreats. The more he retreats, the louder she becomes. And so the cycle spins, leaving both feeling unheard and misunderstood. Yet, within this clash lies extraordinary potential. If they learn to compromise, their communication can become one of their greatest strengths. The Scorpio man must take the courageous step of opening up sooner, of trusting her enough to voice his feelings without bottling them up until they explode. He must realize that silence, while comfortable for him, can feel like abandonment to her. By sharing even fragments of his thoughts along the way, he reassures her that he is present, engaged, and willing to meet her halfway. The Gemini woman, in turn, must learn the art of slowing down. She must recognize that not every silence is rejection, not every pause is a dismissal. Sometimes, Scorpio's quiet is a sign of processing, of respect for the weight of the issue. By giving him space, by allowing pauses in the conversation, she shows him that she values his depth as much as he values her words. And when she listens more deeply, not just to respond but to truly understand, she unlocks the treasure chest of insights that Scorpio keeps so carefully hidden. When they manage to align, their communication becomes electric. His emotional honesty merges with her verbal brilliance, creating conversations that are both profound and playful. She draws him into debates and laughter, pulling his words out like jewels from a cave, while he grounds her chatter with insights that cut straight to the heart of things. Together, they create dialogue that is never boring, sometimes fiery, sometimes tender, but always meaningful. Their conflicts, too, can evolve into opportunities for intimacy. Instead of seeing disagreements as threats, they can learn to treat them as invitations. Invitations for him to share more vulnerably, and for her to listen more deeply. In doing so, they transform conflict from a battlefield into a workshop where their love is strengthened and refined. Ultimately, the success of their long-term communication lies not in erasing their differences but in celebrating them. He will never be as talkative as she is, and she will never be as reserved as he is. But together, they can balance silence with speech, depth with variety, precision with play. Their relationship, when nurtured, becomes a space where words are not just spoken but felt, where silences are not empty but full of meaning, and where every conversation, whether light or heavy, becomes another thread binding their souls together. Physical intimate connection. This is the arena where the Scorpio man and Gemini woman surprise not only each other but often themselves. For all their differences in temperament, personality, and emotional approach, it is in intimacy, where masks fall away, where words are replaced by touch, that their polarity transforms into undeniable magnetism. It is here, in the private space between them, that fire and air fuse into something electrifying, unpredictable, and deeply memorable. The Scorpio man's reputation as a lover precedes him, and for good reason. To him, intimacy is never just a physical act, it is a sacred ritual, a merging of two souls. He does not approach sex casually, nor does he reduce it to mere mechanics. Every touch, every kiss, every glance is infused with a profound intensity. He seeks not only to please but to possess, not only to connect but to transform. For Scorpio, the bedroom is not just a place of pleasure, it is a temple where passion becomes transcendence. His goal is always to dive beneath the surface, to find that place where bodies dissolve and souls intertwine. When he looks at his partner, he doesn't just see flesh, he sees the doorway to something mystical, something eternal. The Gemini woman brings a very different kind of energy into intimacy. For her, the bedroom is a playground, a stage for laughter, spontaneity, and experimentation. She doesn't take sex as seriously as Scorpio, but that is not to say she lacks passion, far from it. Instead, her approach is infused with curiosity, creativity, and a hunger for variety. She thrives on keeping the spark alive through surprises, playful touches, whispered jokes, and a willingness to try anything once. For Gemini, intimacy is an adventure, an exploration of pleasure not confined by rules or expectations. It should be light, fun, exciting. A place where both partners can shed inhibitions and simply enjoy being alive. At first glance, these styles might seem incompatible. He is depth, she is motion. He craves intensity that borders on obsession, she craves excitement that borders on novelty. To him, her playfulness might seem frivolous. To her, his intensity might feel heavy. And yet, when these energies combine, something remarkable happens. They balance each other. The Scorpio man introduces her to passion she has never known before. In his arms, intimacy stops being just fun, it becomes meaningful. He shows her what it feels like to be completely seen, completely consumed, completely cherished. He slows her down, grounding her restless energy in the fire of his devotion. With him, she learns that intimacy can be more than experimentation, it can be transformation. She discovers that depth is not the enemy of excitement but its perfect companion, and that surrendering to his intensity can feel just as exhilarating as any new adventure. The Gemini woman, in turn, teaches him to let go of the need for control. She adds laughter to his seriousness, spontaneity to his ritual, lightness to his gravity. With her, intimacy is not always a solemn act of merging souls, it is also playful, unpredictable, alive. She reminds him that passion can be joyous as well as intense, that sometimes the most profound moments happen when both partners are giggling between kisses or trying something unexpected. With her, he learns that intimacy is not diminished by play, it is enriched by it. Their physical chemistry becomes a dance of contrasts. He brings the fire, the steady, burning flame of passion. She brings the air, the spark of movement, the wind that fans the fire higher. Together, they create an atmosphere that is never dull, never routine. Nights between them can shift seamlessly from deep, soul-penetrating intensity to light-hearted exploration. One moment, he is holding her as if the world outside no longer exists. The next, she is teasing him, laughing, pulling him into a new game. This constant interplay keeps their intimacy alive, vibrant, and endlessly compelling. Of course, their differences can also create friction. He may sometimes feel that her need for variety signals restlessness, as though she is never satisfied with what they already share. He may interpret her playful attitude as a lack of seriousness, a sign that she doesn't value the sacredness of intimacy the way he does. She, on the other hand, may sometimes feel suffocated by his intensity, overwhelmed by his need to merge so completely. She might crave space even in passion, and his desire for complete unity might feel like too much. These moments can lead to misunderstandings, to him feeling unappreciated and her feeling trapped. The key, as always with this pair, lies in appreciating what the other brings. If the Scorpio man learns to embrace her playfulness as an enhancement, not a threat, he will find his own passion deepened by her creativity. If the Gemini woman learns to honor his intensity instead of resisting it, she will discover the thrill of intimacy that goes beyond the surface. By respecting these differences, they can turn potential conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection. What makes their physical and intimate bond especially powerful in the long term is its capacity for evolution. Unlike some couples who fall into routine, Scorpio and Gemini rarely risk boredom in this area. He will always crave depth, she will always crave variety, and together, these desires ensure that their intimacy never grows stale. Every encounter feels like a new chapter, sometimes profound, sometimes playful, always unforgettable. In the end, their physical connection mirrors the essence of their relationship as a whole, a merging of opposites that creates something greater than the sum of its parts. Scorpio adds the devotion, the passion, the raw emotional fire that makes intimacy unforgettable. Gemini adds the laughter, the curiosity, the lightness that keeps it fresh and alive. Together, they create a union that is not just about bodies meeting, but about two very different souls discovering, again and again, the many ways passion can transform into joy. Shared values, life goals. When it comes to building a life together, a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman must face one of the most crucial questions any couple can ask: do their values align, and do their visions of the future complement one another, or do they clash irreparably? This is often the make or break factor, not passion, not chemistry, not even emotional compatibility, but the ability to walk side by side toward a shared horizon. Passion might fuel the beginning, but shared goals keep the journey alive. And for these two, the balance between stability and freedom becomes both their greatest challenge and their greatest opportunity. A Scorpio man is defined by his unwavering devotion to truth, loyalty, and transformation. He does not move through life casually. Every step he takes, every choice he makes, carries meaning. For him, stability is not a luxury, it is a necessity. He thrives when he knows where he stands, when his world is built on a foundation of trust and permanence. In relationships, this translates to an almost sacred commitment. Once he has chosen his partner, he invests fully, protecting the bond as if it were his very lifeblood. In his career, he craves significance rather than surface success. He seeks work that allows him to transform not only himself but the world around him, often gravitating toward roles where he can influence, protect, or uncover truth. The Gemini woman, in contrast, holds a completely different compass. For her, life is about exploration, discovery, and the thrill of the new. She values freedom above all, freedom to change her mind, to reinvent herself, to chase curiosity wherever it may lead. Her goals are rarely static. Instead, they evolve with her shifting interests and expanding horizons. Where the Scorpio man might dedicate decades to mastering one career path, the Gemini woman might try her hand at several, not out of indecision but out of a hunger to experience life in its many forms. Her hobbies change, her dreams shift, and her lifestyle may evolve multiple times throughout her life. For her, permanence is not the goal, growth and discovery are. At first glance, this contrast looks like a recipe for frustration. Scorpio may view Gemini as too unpredictable, too scattered, too unwilling to plant her feet firmly on the ground. To him, her shifting ambitions may feel like instability, as if she cannot be trusted to hold steady when life becomes difficult. He fears building a future on foundations that constantly shift beneath his feet. Meanwhile, she may see him as too rigid, too unwilling to adapt, too fixed in his ways. To her, his intensity about permanence can feel suffocating, like a cage that limits her freedom to explore new opportunities and reinvent her path. And yet, when they choose to look deeper, they can find a remarkable complementarity in their values. What one lacks, the other provides. What one fears, the other can soothe. If they discover a shared dream, a vision big enough to hold both of their truths, they can become an unstoppable team. Imagine, for example, the dream of building a family. The Scorpio man would bring to it his unshakable loyalty, his desire to protect, his ability to create a safe, stable environment where love thrives. The Gemini woman would bring joy, adaptability, and curiosity, ensuring that their family life never becomes stagnant or dull. She would enrich the household with variety, learning, and laughter, while he would ground it with devotion and consistency. Together, they could raise children who feel both secure and inspired, anchored by Scorpio's depth and uplifted by Gemini's light. Or picture them starting a business together. The Scorpio man would provide the determination, focus, and strategy necessary to see it through the long haul. He has the stamina to weather challenges, the grit to push through obstacles, and the intensity to ensure nothing is left undone. The Gemini woman, on the other hand, would contribute fresh ideas, creative marketing strategies, and the ability to adapt quickly to changing trends. She would ensure the business stays innovative, forward-thinking, and connected to the ever-evolving world. His focus combined with her flexibility could create a partnership that is both visionary and enduring. Even in travel, one of Gemini's favorite pursuits, they could find common ground. She would push him to explore, to step outside of his comfort zone, to see the world through new eyes. He would ensure that their adventures are not just fleeting vacations but transformative experiences that deepen their connection and broaden their understanding of life. Together, they could weave stability into adventure, building a home base while also exploring the world hand in hand. But for this balance to work, each must make peace with compromise. The Scorpio man must learn to loosen his grip, to understand that flexibility does not equal disloyalty, and that a changing dream is not the same as a disappearing one. He must accept that her curiosity is not a threat to their stability but a way of keeping life vibrant. The Gemini woman, meanwhile, must learn to honor his need for loyalty and truth. She must understand that while her spirit thrives on variety, his thrives on constancy. By showing him that her freedom does not mean she will leave, that her curiosity does not mean she cannot commit, she can reassure him and earn his trust. What makes their shared values and goals unique is that they are not built on sameness but on contrast. He brings focus, determination, and the power to see things through. She brings adaptability, innovation, and the courage to change course when necessary. He ensures that their dreams do not dissolve into scattered fragments, while she ensures that their dreams do not calcify into rigid routines. Together, they can achieve a balance that is rare and beautiful: stability infused with adventure, permanence colored by freedom, loyalty enlivened by curiosity. If they fail to find this middle ground, their differences may pull them apart. His need for permanence could crush her spirit, while her need for variety could erode his trust. But if they succeed, if they learn to hold their values not as opposing forces but as complementary gifts, they can create a life together that is both deeply grounded and endlessly inspiring. Their love becomes not only a union of hearts but a partnership of visions, one that thrives on differences rather than similarities, one that is built not on compromise alone but on the magic of balance. In the end, the question is not whether their values align perfectly, they don't. The question is whether they are willing to honor and integrate each other's truths. And if the answer is yes, then the Scorpio man and Gemini woman can achieve something rare: a shared life that is both stable and dynamic, rooted and free, serious and playful. A life where loyalty meets freedom, depth meets curiosity, and two very different souls discover that the road to forever is not about walking the same path but about walking different paths in the same direction, together. Final thoughts. So, what's the verdict? Is the pairing between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman destined for brilliance, or doomed by their differences? The truth, as with most great love stories, lies somewhere in the middle. This is not the kind of relationship that glides along effortlessly, free of turbulence and challenge. Instead, it is the kind that forces both partners to stretch beyond what they thought they knew about themselves, about love, and about connection. It is a relationship filled with contradictions, intensity and playfulness, silence and chatter, loyalty and freedom, heaviness and lightness. And yet, it is exactly those contradictions, the push and pull, the clash and reconciliation, that make their bond unforgettable. The Scorpio man will never forget the Gemini woman who brought light into his shadows, who showed him that even in the midst of intensity and seriousness, there is room for laughter, spontaneity, and joy. He may never have thought it possible to laugh at life's chaos, to embrace uncertainty with a smile, until she came along. She, with her quick wit and boundless curiosity, teaches him that depth does not have to be solemn, and that intimacy can be just as powerful when it's playful as when it's profound. She awakens in him a new way of experiencing love, less about control, more about flow. And once he's tasted that balance, he cannot unlearn it. The Gemini woman, in turn, will always remember the Scorpio man who introduced her to the depths of true passion. Before him, she may have fluttered from one experience to another, tasting life's many flavors but never staying long enough to understand the richness beneath the surface. But with him, she learns what it means to be fully consumed by devotion, what it feels like to be seen, not just for her wit, her charm, or her adaptability, but for her soul. His intensity, which might overwhelm others, gives her a sense of gravity, an anchor she didn't even realize she craved. He shows her that love can be more than fun, more than fleeting, it can be transformative, a force that changes everything. And she will carry that lesson with her always. Together, they create a relationship that may not look perfect from the outside, but one that burns brightly in the memory of everyone who experiences it. Whether they last for a lifetime or only for a season, their story is always written in bold ink, never fading into the background. Some couples are remembered for their harmony, their ease, their predictability. But the Scorpio man and Gemini woman are remembered for their fire, their contrast, their unforgettable impact. In the end, love between a Scorpio man and a Gemini woman is not about perfection, it is about growth. It is about challenge, it is about transformation, it is about two people who come together not because they fit seamlessly, like puzzle pieces, but because their differences push them to grow into something greater. He softens because of her, she deepens because of him. He learns to laugh, she learns to feel. They teach each other the lessons they could not have learned alone. And isn't that, at its core, what love is meant to do? For some, this kind of love may feel too difficult, too volatile, too demanding. It is not a relationship that runs on autopilot, where both partners can simply coast. It requires patience, compromise, and a willingness to sit in discomfort for the sake of growth. But for those who dare to embrace it, who choose not to fear the contradictions but to lean into them, this love offers something rare. It offers a chance to be transformed. Sometimes, the most powerful loves are not the ones that feel smooth and easy, but the ones that force us to see the world differently, to see ourselves differently. The Scorpio man and Gemini woman embody this truth. They may stumble, they may clash, they may even part ways, but even then, their connection leaves a mark, a lasting impression that shapes how they love in the future. So, are they doomed or destined? Perhaps the real answer is that they are both, and neither. Their fate lies not in the stars but in their choices, their willingness to bridge the gap between fire and air, depth and play, freedom and devotion. If they choose to honor their differences instead of fighting them, they can create a love that is both stable and exhilarating, profound and joyful. If they resist, if they cling too tightly to their own ways, their bond may fracture under the weight of misunderstanding. But regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain: theirs is never a forgettable story. Whether it lasts for a chapter or a lifetime, the Scorpio man and Gemini woman write a tale of passion, laughter, transformation, and unforgettable contrasts. And sometimes, that kind of love, even if imperfect, is the most powerful love of all.